Folks, our first on-demand workshop, How to Become a Coffee Consultant, is now available for you to learn at your own pace for just €50, and it comes with a certificate upon completion. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for more details. Support this podcast by supporting our sponsors. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 3 of a 5-part series of an absolutely fascinating conversation that I'm having with Hassan. Hassan, we're talking about the future of the specialty coffee industry from the perspective of you, a Gen Zer. And we have been talking about how you guys see the industry, where the future of the industry is going, and we can't talk about the future of the industry without considering the role that tech is going to play in that. Now, your generation is the first that kind of you from babies have grown up with technology, and you don't know anything else. I am going to date myself here, and I was around when computers weren't around yet. So, so tell me, where do you see the role that tech is going to play in this industry over, let's say, the next decade or two?
I feel like tech brings a lot of pros and cons with it.
Okay.
It's either the train you're going to hop on or the train you're going to regret you didn't get on, I would say.
Okay.
Because it's going to play a very vital part going into the next decade. But something I love to stress and I love to talk about a lot is you need to find the right balance. How do you strike the right balance of using tech within your space, but assisting and not overriding your experience? You're having the right balance, but it's not completely taking over.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a very key thing to talk about, the balance, striking the right balance. Where is that right balance, for example? And I would say the human connection to things, I don't think is going anywhere within the industry so far, because a key part, what I've learned over the past year is coffee without people is nothing. From the consumer to the person behind the bar to the farmer making it, it's truly like if we were to, let's say in a theoretical world, it was all computers and machines doing this, it's not going to be the same. I don't think. And I feel like we may be heading in certain markets in that way, and maybe it's working for some. But I feel like there'll be a point where people kind of want to maybe go back a little bit when we grow, how am I getting value from this? But on the opposite side, a lot of people have, for example, enjoyed on-the-go drinking, being able to order on your phone, having a coffee within 15 minutes at the office, or being able to not have to wait in a queue and being able to order before and just grabbing your coffee, getting on your day, because people are very busy as well. This technology has also, allowed them to take control sometimes a bit more of time, and also not, you're able to schedule your time maybe a bit better, but you're also still very busy. So I'm not going to have the 10, maybe 15 to 30 minutes every day to sit at the bar and talk with the barista and, go through things. Certain days are different than others.
So how do you think, go ahead, please.
So I think it's going to play a very key part in how different markets and different companies strike that balance. Like, where is it going to be?
And do you think your generation is going to use more technology, or do you think that you guys will shy away from more technology? Because from what it sounds like you're saying is that culture and relationships are really important to Gen Z. And so if that's the case with technology, how does that fit in? How does that mix find equilibrium?
I would say you have a few aspects currently in Gen Z. So people closer to my age, maybe the older generation of Gen Z, and you have the younger generation, the ones that fall a few years behind. So I'd say with me and my kind of upper side of Gen Z, let's say then the closer, older side, we still value the human connections, and we still see the value in having that social interaction. But on the flip side, the generations before me, for example, some of my siblings, they see this completely different. Like they can sit on their phone for hours and not leave and not do anything. Like if I was to leave them there, they would just sit there the whole day, for example. It's truly, truly different. So I feel like we're not going to shy away from technology at all, considering it's been changing and evolving as we've grown up. While we're growing up, what's the new iPhone? What's the new features? What's the new coffee machine that's out, for example? What's this do? What's that do? And it's definitely helped the aspect of quality being
Hmm.
more controlled. Like quality is not going anywhere. Like if anything, if it doesn't improve the quality and holding that quality, it's gonna be thrown out the window, I think, personally.
And so when we're talking about quality and technology, how do you think that those two things are going to be correlated? Because when you look at it, sometimes the people in a business can stand in the way of quality. So having people prepare beverages isn't, you were mentioning steaming milk. Sometimes it's having people do things that prevents consistency, it prevents quality, or it can hinder it. What's the relationship between quality and technology from your generation's perspective?
From my generation's perspective, I would say the machine is going to be more accurate than me and more precise as a barista, for example. Like this robot, or maybe it's just putting the espresso shot and I'm having to steam the milk, or it's completely doing all the work. A, it's providing it in a faster manner, I would say. And B, it's providing me that consistency every single time. Every time it's been able to measure that exact amount of shot and use the exact amount of milk with producing a little bit of waste, for example, as compared to me, maybe sometimes I'm producing a lot, sometimes a little. So there's consistency that comes with that. But then at the same time, you also need to have someone overlooking this. I feel like we're still not at the point where you could just completely leave it on its own. You're going to have someone beside it, explaining what's going on maybe to the consumer, because of course this is going to be a very big thing when it's kind of being introduced now. Whoa, like a robot making a coffee. It's a bit weird, it's something completely different, something maybe people would have never imagined would happen. And then having someone being able to introduce this robot, because they're being given personalities as well, which is really interesting.
I know,
This
it's
is
weird.
the robot creates the top. It's a bit weird, but then I feel like AI will bring that more to life in the way it's able to maybe replicate certain movements and think of some of these robots, for example, the way they learn is by looking at the baristas. So like you record, let's say, a segment, and then it replicates exactly the same movement. So it looks very human, which looks very, very weird. But I promise you, it's going to be a very big factor in providing quality if it's balanced correctly. If it's just a robot on its own, I'm going to be, for example, I would say if I was a bit older as a millennial,
Easy.
I
The
would
men
say
that
I'd
come on
be
this podcast always talk about age. They're constantly talking about age. Martin Mayorga kept saying, I'm 50 and by my age, I'm like, chill out. So go on.
we're all young at heart. It's all okay. Everyone's young at
Correct.
heart, especially in the coffee world. We're all young at heart. So yeah, no, it's very interesting. But I feel like being able to strike that balance of assisting, not overriding, is a very
Right.
key one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know much about AI?
A little bit, I would say. Like a fair bit, maybe, yes.
Okay. So
But
what
of course,
role?
I have no thing, but like I would say a fair
Right.
good
You
amount. So,
you you
yes,
know more than ChatGPT 4 exists and you use it.
yes,
And
yes, yes,
right.
yes.
Great. Excellent. So I use ChatGPT 4 a lot in my business. I'm a big fan of technology. And I'm wondering from your generation's perspective and maybe your perspective personally, what role do you think AI could play from a technology perspective moving forward?
Can play a very big role. And I'm really excited to see what happens because it's currently at the point of endless possibilities. Either you or I are going to be able to see, even the people creating these softwares and, implementing them, they don't even know how far they can go.
Right.
So I feel like that brings a lot of excitement with it. Where is this going to go? How is this going to push this to the next step? How can we, implement it in the correct way? And I feel like sometimes there's a bit of patience and a bit of, keeping on top of things, reading these new articles that are coming out and seeing how things are building. But no, it's definitely going to play a very, very key part. But I must stress
Love a
this.
but.
The balance still needs to be there. As much as AI and robotics will play a key part, as I was saying, the customer engagement and that human touch and that social connection, I personally don't think is going to be changing too much. Maybe towards these next maybe first 5 years, I think it will still be there, but the next five probably look completely different. But I would say it's still going to play a very key part in this next period of the fifth wave of coffee, let's say.
I want to push back on that a little bit, because I think that people are becoming, but particularly, I actually am seeing it a lot more in your generation, where people are becoming a little more isolated. And I know that what you're saying is that people want more connection, etc., etc. I think that comes from the fact that they are more isolated and they're looking for ways that they can connect. But when it comes to connecting in an environment where they don't know people, they would much rather be isolated than have to be triggered by actually having to say hello to a stranger. So I wonder if they are going to find cafes that are, staffed by robots much more approachable than a cafe that's going to be known as an old-fashioned cafe like we have right now. Do you think that's going to be kind of the mindset of your generation? Where, go ahead.
I definitely agree, 100%. I know by fact many people who would just love to order on their phone, walk in, pick up quickly, no interaction, nothing. Makes it easier. Some people prefer to be in their own zones. I feel like if we slowly push that more and more and more within this industry, taking away the people aspect, I think that can be very damaging to the generation, in my opinion. Taking away the social aspect completely, because then if you think about it, you're waking up to technology, you're working with technology all day, and you're not necessarily maybe having to interact with someone the whole day. I don't know, that's a bit scary to me. I don't know, it seems to be as enticing as it is and as interesting as it is, especially with maybe augmented reality, being able to call people through that way. You're still not having that physical connection, or, sitting next to someone and enjoying a cup of coffee. So I don't know, it's going to play, like, there's this and there's that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things shape up. But most definitely certain markets will probably apply that a bit more because they'll see that more suitable. It's just going to see, we're just going to see where the next trends are coming up through the generation, who are the trendsetters and what are they pushing on. For example, drinking coffee at home wasn't that big of a thing. For example, I think pre-COVID, I would say not many people had coffee setups and coffee machines, for example, like espresso machines. But once they realized how much of an impact that had, everyone was buying machines, everyone was making home setups, just in case maybe we went into something similar, or heading into the future, they just want to maybe sometimes wake up and make it at home because they're too busy to go into the cafe. But no, on-the-go drinking is a very key topic for sure. It's going to play a very big part.
There's a whole layer of this technology conversation that we haven't had, and that's VR. And that's going to open up a whole other layer of the coffee industry that I think is exceptionally exciting for I think it's going to be your generation that takes it to the extent that it could go to. And I think it's going to require a shift in the consumer in order to do that. And in the next episode, folks, we're going to talk about where the cafe and the consumer is going. And that's where we're going to pick up the conversation. So join us for the next episode. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, friends. There are 2 ways you can support this podcast. Firstly, become a paid member of our YouTube channel. Secondly, you can join our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video before you leave, and check the show notes for more information. Now, this is what you should check out next.